Hey everyone, and welcome to the Build It with AI show. Today, my name is Adiran, and I'm the CTO at the AI advisory team at Microsoft for Startups. Today, I'm very excited to host Amit Ben, the CEO and co-founder of OneAI, one of the top startups in the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub program and our Pegasus program. So before drilling into the questions and what's going to be a really interesting discussion around early adoption of LLM products and understanding some of the pitfalls, challenges, and opportunities in this, I just want to ask all of you to join Founders Hub and maybe be at the same tail of OneAI as well. This is our credits program from Microsoft for Startups. And if anything that you're going to see today in the episode would be interesting to you, just feel free to hop in. There's a lot of credits, both for Azure and OpenAI directly. So it's a good place to start. Great. So Amit, it's great to have you here. Let's maybe start with the first question is give me some background about yourself and OneAI, just for the audience to understand what is the amazing thing that you're actually doing as a startup here in our program.
Sounds good. Nice to be here, Adir. Thank you for hosting me. So I'm here with OneAI, and specifically, we're going to be talking a lot about the One Agent platform, which is our main offering today. Of course, leveraging large language models and generative AI and all of the hot buzzwords. And OneAI, I think the most important context is to know that we've been running for over 2 years, building technologies around generative AI. So it's not just something recent we've cocked up in the last 3 months or so. We've been hard at work at figuring out what are the key challenges and what should go into a real generative AI solution that provides value for consumers, users, and how to solve these challenges. We're doing in-house research. We're trying to keep up with the latest tech, but most importantly, we're trying to focus on value-added solutions that go above just what raw models can generate. Because at the end of the day, you need a product and you need to deliver some sort of value. And otherwise, first of all, it's not enough for anybody to actually just use a model out of the box. You need to wrap it with a lot of capabilities around it. And secondly, that doesn't kind of contribute to a sustainable company if you just based it on just, hey, we have a great model and we send some prompts into it. And
answers. I have to say something. I mean, I've been working with you for a while. Two things that really struck to me is one, you've been here before the ChatGPTs of the world. It's actually, you've been founded like 2 years ago, and you walked through that revolution as it exploded. So it's really interesting, and I'd be happy to hear throughout the episode your perspective here, because you are early adopters of something that is still considered very trendy and new. And second is something that you said, and I think it's a good maybe to show the product a little bit and then give that sense of what that means, is that the model is actually not the product. The model is something that you're building your engine behind it, but there's a lot of experience and add-ons and thinking about what you're actually trying to provide from a workload perspective rather than, okay, I have a model, let's wrap it up a little bit, and now I have a startup. So I think this is something that is quite unique to what you do. And it'll be great to maybe see a bit of a demo of, just to get the audience to understand what exactly is the difference between being a model company and a product company.
Right. Sounds great. And we're going to try and show as much as we can here. There's so much that we can possibly show. And I think a good place to start is right here in the Agents Hub. And we can kind of scroll down a bit and see a lot of nice agents that have been created by the community on a myriad of topics, from obviously AI, but history, media, news, science, and so on and so forth. And
how many
all
do
of
you have?
these different. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How many do you have, Amit?
I think it's about it's close to 10,000 agents now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
And thank you. And I think part of the objective for the hub is to just show people what it means to create an agent. but also to help people at the end of the day find these agents and help get agent creators the exposure that they need. Eventually, we want this to be a place where people can go and find their hubs. You can just ask questions like, who is the best singer in the world, and just have the hub look for agents that are good agents to answer these questions. And if you click on them, you can just have the agents start answering these questions, and each agent will answer it from its own perspective. And that brings me to the question, so what's an agent, right? And it's very similar to an identity of a person, right? We all have very similarly built brains. We all speak the same language, but we have our own thoughts, we have our own ideas, our own experience and knowledge. And that's what an agent is in this sense. They have knowledge, they have objectives, and they will all react differently to different queries. And one of the biggest challenges in creating these AI agents is to actually have them adhere to the objectives and knowledge that you want them to, and not just gonna stray away. And it's not just chatting on random topics, but trying to be really focused on something specific.
Yeah, this is quite interesting because you are showing me an agent that is showing different questions to the same answer based on some of the customizations and definition that you made per agent, which means that you're not going directly to the model, you're having some sort of an insight there. So interesting to see how you built it. And what was the rule around the one that thought that Pink was the best singer in the world? That's kind of a customization I really want to understand. It's not the answer I would choose.
So various different layers of that, and I'll talk to these in a second. Of course, if you have the HubSpot agent, it can answer everything about HubSpot. And if you ask it what's the best solution for that audience, of course, the answer will be what this agent thinks. And other agents will have different opinions. By the way, it will be great to see some kind of debate between different agents on various topics. But more specifically, if we go, we can go to the hub, or we could just from any agent just click on a create, and this will take us to the agent maker. And this agent maker experience allows you to very easily generate your own agent. Of course, it starts simple, so easy to pick up, very hard to master, because there's a lot of what can go in to creating an agent. And let's say I like music, and maybe I own this music festival, or maybe I just like it and I want to create an agent for it as the community. And there's a lot of content here, and you'll notice a lot of this content is not exactly textual, natural language, LLM friendly, right? There's a lot of content here. So I'm just gonna pick up the URL for this agent and go back to the maker for this website, and go back to the maker. I'm just going to give this URL to the agent maker. And a lot of what we've built in the technology is the AI layer that can translate all of these different documents, web pages, media into agents.
Yeah.
And these agents automatically generate the content and the suggestions and the profiles and the SEO material for that agent to be a fully operational solution, rather than just a boilerplate LLM with a prompt. And you can start using that as a product, and you can ask questions about this festival and about maybe the premium pass, and you can also dictate the objectives for these agents, and kind of try to see, maybe you want your agent to push users to sign up, or maybe you want to make sure they're filling out a form, or maybe you just want to kind of see that they're happy. Maybe the objective for the agents is to make them feel better. So all of that is built into the agent. But the most important thing is that whenever you're providing an answer, right, whether it's the benefits of the premium pass or the prices for general admission, and you would see that as opposed to a lot of open-ended GPT or ChatGPT implementation, it doesn't take a very long time to kind of figure out where to grab the content from, because when you generated the agent, it already optimized it around your data. You can fact check all of these answers directly to the content and materials you have allowed the agent to use. So we're actually going against the general world knowledge the agent is picked up on, because maybe it knows that sometime an admission ticket was $50, but in this case, it's 109, or 109 for Sunday and 289 for 3 days. Now, you want to make sure that the data is picked up in real time from the right source, and that you can prove it to your users, because an agent, first and foremost, is a means to consume information. If you don't build trust, then nothing matters, right? You want to make sure that you provide fact check. And as far as we know, we're the only solution that can do that. We've built into our LLM implementation a layer that factually correlates the output from the agent and the actual facts in the documentation and material it's allowed to use.
So if I'm kind of, and there's a lot here, so I'm trying to really maybe take some of the learnings of what we can take to other startups as well. One is you are investing a lot in a preparation model, right? I mean, just giving you the URL, there's a lot that happens there before that data is being, injected in some way to GPT. And I think this is a very good learning from your perspective into understanding the preparation for the content is super important, because I am seeing a lot of places that this is not happening. And then just, GPT can fail because of not having the right context. And the second piece is, and that's truly, I mean, you mentioned this is quite unique to what you do, because I haven't seen a lot of people combine fact checking. I think one of the cool examples is actually Bing, that you always can get like the reference of why a GPT said something. It's not a lot around, because as you know, LLM will always say something. They never say, I don't know, right? They always will create that language, the large language model output. So it's on us to make sure that that output is right and not, hallucinating in some sense. And I think you have a very interesting outtake for this.
I think what you just said, that an agent or an AI will never say, I don't know. This is why the fact check is so critical, because if you ask this Ground Up Music Festival, who is Alicia Keys, and she's not appearing in the lineup, and this agent is not about Alicia Keys, we are specifically able to make the language model output that it doesn't know. Even though most probably 120%, the model behind the scene can definitely answer this question, who is Alicia Keys, and will give you probably a good answer. But in this context, it's like calling up the Ground Up Music Festival service and asking them who is Alicia Keys, and say, hey, I'm probably not the right guy to answer this question. And in the future, what we will do here is, as you've seen before in the hub, we'll probably potentially suggest you might want to ask these agents, or we actually have the Alicia Keys agent who is great at answering that question and has curated knowledge around it that is also approved and condoned by the content maker. So the idea is not just to have one opinion, which is the language model. It has its own opinion and grasp of the world. It's actually have different opinions and differing perspectives on the world that are malleable and controllable. So we want to give back the power to the content creators. We're looking for, okay, language models are great at conversing and processing language data, but we're famous in saying that the language model is only 10% of the solution. Probably it's even less than 10%. The levels and layers of pre-processing and knowledge management that are going on behind the scenes, and the post-processing and what we're allowing and how we're controlling the output and the inference of the language model in order to generate the response as it's expected in the right context is incredible. We'll talk about additional challenges that we have kind of hit in the process, but I think it's one of the bigger ones. How do you kind of wrangle and control the language models to generate predictable and controllable outcomes.
Yeah, I'm hearing this a lot from the startups that we're meeting in the program. The fact that you're putting LLMs in front of your users is actually you're giving them a lot of power to answer in your company's behalf. And that power is not super controlled in a lot of the cases. So I think this is a really interesting insight from you. We've been in the market for 2 years to understand that, that there's a lot of facts, checks, and balances that should be imposed on the LLM before putting it front and center and letting it talk in behalf of your business. I do want to maybe before talking a little bit about your sort of roadmap journey and challenges, maybe walk me through some of the technical references here. So you are using Azure and GPT. Can you maybe walk me a little bit around the architecture that is being used on the One Agent?
Sure. So, as I said, the language model is a part of the process. So you can think of it, first of all, there is a full knowledge management suite that allows content creators to manage this content. And then there's an entire part of the product which is targeted at ingesting the material into the content management solution. And that includes capabilities in document processing, OCR, layout recognition for documents, post-processing model and algorithms that we've built that would convert the detected text and content into a flow and structure that is LLM optimized, because you can't just throw it in. You throw it in randomly, you'll get random results. So kind of very prescribed process into generating and managing the content. And then we have a layer of indexing that we use, of course, RAG, retrieval augmented generation. It's part of what we use in order to get the LLM to do what we want it to do. It's of course not enough, but it's an important component. And for that, we use a suite of indexing algorithms. A few of them are open source. A few of them have been built internally to solve a lot of the more complicated issues that you see in situations for documents that have combined language and images, have complicated structures, have internal and external linking. I think that's a really interesting example where you can have a manual. The user might ask, how do you change the batteries on the remote? And then the answer would be on the manual, see, you need to open the hatch and put in 3 AAA batteries. To open the hatch, you need to follow instructions on page 365.
Yeah, like an IKEA instruction model.
An LLM would probably say, follow the instructions on page 365 to open the hatch and then choose the remotes, but that's not really what you want as a user. You want the model to actually understand that there's a retrieval process, find the content from page 365, or that page notation might be a link. You can say, you should follow the hatch opening instructions, and that text is a link. And the link points to a PDF on a different server, and the link in many cases is invisible to an LLM because it's not in the text. So you have to figure out how to extract that information, how to pull the link in the right context and kind of combine them together for the LLM to ingest. So all of the post-processing of the materials is also a very big challenge, especially when we're dealing with advanced and not to mention dynamic content that you have to pull for dynamic sources. And then when you do that, you give it to the LLM, and you do that with specific inference parameters and another side model that fact checks and aligns and directs the inference to generate the right outcome based on the instructions and the context. And once you have that response, you need to do the cross-reference and the fact checking. The fact check and what you see normally on LLM solution is that, you do the RAG, the retrieval augmented generation, and you search and you find 3 links that you give to the LLM, and you hope that it bases the information, the answer, based on that information. It might not. And you give the user, oh, for reference, here are the 3 links that I've used. But you don't really know if you used any of these links in generating the answer.
Yeah.
You don't know if there's an hallucination that contradicts it. And if it was used, you don't know which one of these, and you're just sending the user into an adventure, finding whether or not this answer fits any of these documents. And our fact check does all of that process and tells you, oh, these answers of $109, and if you look back at the fact check screen, it's on the homepage, and it says general admission Sunday is $109. So you can refer to the fact, and you can prove that it's right, and most importantly, we can prove to ourselves that we gave a right answer, because otherwise we're not doing our job.
Yeah.
So that's just part of it. And then you want to optimize the suggested questions. You want to make sure we can talk about layout flows, and we can talk about performance and cost optimizations, which is probably the biggest challenge any generative AI company faces today.
So I think, you just blew my mind. I think also a lot of the startups that are hearing here, because there's so many things that you already overcame that a lot of the startups don't even know that this is a challenge coming up ahead. So it's interesting to see the perspective that you're bringing into solving problems that we don't even know they're going to be problems. And the fact that you're actually building an architecture that looks at the model from the Azure perspective, but also heavily leans into the data platform, the application platform as well, to kind of have like this triangle, building a very robust, massive architecture above the LLM. I am trying to think, and maybe, just in the interest of time, you've done an amazing journey here. So if you had to pick like the biggest challenges that you faced since trying to get this into market, for a lot of the startups that are currently hearing us and saying, wow, I understand now, there's so much I don't even know that I don't know. And maybe you can give some pointers into what would be the top challenges that you actually, faced in building this in the past 2 years.
Wow. There have been so many. I think one of the biggest ones that we initially didn't expect is how difficult it's going to be to do the content ingestion. So we would think as humans, we were reading web pages and documents every day, and for us, it's so intuitive, and we expect that these so powerful models will be great at that. But when you're starting to have the AI ingest web pages or PDFs that have not been built for textual consumption, and I've shown the website a moment ago, and the layout is very visual, right? Or if you look at a product manual, right? Let me bring one up on the screen. Just a simple product manual, right? This is printed. You cannot just grab the text. You need to do full OCR. You need to figure out which element depends on the other elements in order to kind of provide the flow. Which are tables? Is this paragraph dependent on the last one on this page, or is it a continuation of the previous page on the same column? And so on and so forth, right? These are endless, and different documents have different layouts. And I'm just showing one document. There are endless variations and possibilities. So we had to kind of reinvent the way that we do OCR and ingestion in order to get it work. And I don't think we're done there. We're still seeing new stuff, and this has become one of the main focuses of our work in order to make sure that we can actually provide on our promise to just gonna give us the URL or give us that document. We'll give you an amazing agent that's gonna adhere to your documentation. We're working on that. I think we've come a long way. So that's been an unexpected, huge challenge. We knew it's going to be a challenge, but we didn't know it's going to be that big. And I think also there are a lot of interesting solutions out there, and the competition is great, and it's really driving us to do something unique. Because if you're not, I think for startups, if you don't think that what you're doing is defendable, and you don't think that what you're doing is uh, different in the way you're packaging it for your users and your customers, the shelf life of it might be very short. It's very difficult and very volatile. It's a very volatile market, right? I think we all understand that.
And we've seen a lot of this in the program, like the model wrappers that are just providing like the small IP above GPT-4, and then OpenAI just announces something or Microsoft announces something, and and then a day after you don't have a startup. So I think, and you probably faced some of it as well with the GPT's announcement and with assistance.
Yeah.
So trying to make sure that you always have like something that would be tangible in terms of the IP that you're bringing into this to to keep the difference between a model and a product. This again, coming back to what we opened this discussion. I think this is, I've been working with your team for quite a while. This is something that was very humbling to me to understand that the model is not the product. There's a product to build, and there's a lot of investments that happens from something that seems super small, like put a URL, there's an agent. It seems like, okay, cool, that's okay. And I think just understanding the amount of product level that needed to happen there is amazing.
Yeah.
Also want to ask you something around cost and optimization. And I know, as much as you can share with us, a lot of startups, when they're exploring GPT at this point or those things, they're saying, okay, it's nice for like a cool pilot, but it already costs a lot of money. Even if I haven't scaled like to so many, and you have like 10,000 or thousands of agents there. So what would you be your advice in those areas of kind of looking at the scale motion and the pricing optimization that this should bring?
Yeah. I think first of all, I do think it's a real problem, right? I don't want to kind of tiptoe around it. The costs of these very large language models is in many cases prohibitive for many use cases. In some cases, yes, you can get GPT-4 to give you the right response, but you need to do 5 layers of chain of thought, and you need to give it 5 examples, and then you need to ask it if it's sure. And by the end of the day, you've sent in so many tokens. It probably would have been cheaper to hire a PhD to do the job, right? So what did we solve here? Not much, right? It's really nice as a proof of concept. I think in many cases, what you can do in this very long chain of thoughts, if you can find a repeatable use case, you can probably generate the right data and probably train a specialized model to do the job, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to pay for a model that does everything to do one thing, especially if it's repeatable. In the prototyping phase, I think these models are probably the best thing that ever happened to startups, because you can check and learn and experiment with so many things and shorten the time that you have for a prototype considerably. And once you have that, now you just need to figure out if what I'm building here is feasible and I can optimize for it. Can I build a smarter model? Can I do away with a model completely? Because now I found exactly what I want to do, and I can do it with software. Or I can train a smaller large language model, a small language model, in order to do that repeatable work. Or if you still think you need full-fledged GPT-4 for that, make sure you have the economical structure, the business plan, in order to facilitate it. Maybe that one query, that one job is really worth a lot of money for your customers. And it's okay to pay a lot for the LLM. Just make sure the unit economics balances out. For us, we have worked a lot in the context of getting these models to be extremely efficient. We use multiple models behind the scenes. So when you ask an agent, it's not just one pipeline of a specific model that would answer the question. We would try as best as we can to use the fastest and smallest model possible to give you the answer. And that's a lot of the IP that we have in getting these answers to be very fast, very accurate, and optimize on that. I think to our advantage, we make it an advantage that our agents don't do everything, right? The Alicia Keys agent doesn't know how to solve SAT questions. It doesn't. It doesn't need to, right? It needs not to be able to solve them, right?
That's
So we're using that to our advantage in kind of being able to kind of compress and use variations of different models and optimize them, and really also optimize the runtime to get to the right performance and cost metrics that would work for our business, right? Which needs to be large scale.
I love this. I think, it's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of how startups are thinking, because you're actually doing like degeneration of AI, trying to move it into something that is optimized and not do anything, cost a lot of money. So I think that's great. Amit, I really want to thank you. This has been a candid, very open conversation around some of your early adopter experience and learnings. And I know a lot of the people that are hearing us right now are really appreciative of you sharing this openly, and those learnings and those insights that you had like sweat, blood, and tears understanding them with working with LLMs. So really, thank you for this, and hopefully we will get to see you do even bigger, more interesting things in the future. I have 100% full trust that you're actually paving the way for a lot of different startups to invest in this world of productizing LLM-based models and products into something that is a real experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Adir.